This episode of the Policing Matters podcast is sponsored by ESOF by Miller Mendel. Learn more about streamlining your agency's crucial pre-employment background investigation process with ESOF at www.esoph.com. That's www.esoph.com. Hey, welcome back to Policing Matters on policeone.com. I'm Jim Dudley. Hey, I hope you're checking us out on our YouTube channel as well, where you can see my guests today. And unfortunately, I'll be in the picture as well. Well, is there a correct answer to whether or not candidates looking to join the law enforcement profession should have a college degree? Does it make them better cops? Are they better experienced in working in social settings, such as colleges? Some states like California are mandating a college degree for new applicants by 2025. Hunter Penning is a police officer currently appointed as a school resource officer in Chaska, a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hunter sparked an interest in the policing culture and organizational leadership while earning his master's public administration degree, organizational leadership and change management, in addition to enduring doctoral studies in leadership and adult learning theories. Well, I know you've researched it extensively. It's great to talk about it with you today, Hunter Penning. Welcome to Policing Matters.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here and kind of talk to you guys about what my research has revealed and answer the question, does it matter if our cops have college degrees or not? And just kind of really understand that this question has been around for a long time. And a lot of my research is from the early 2000s. So I'm trying to bring back the idea and see what else we can add to the caseload of this question.
Yeah, so I mean, we've been operating police and law enforcement agencies since the 1800s. Why is it so important to have a degree now?
So I think the difference is what society is expecting from us. Police officers have so much more than a law enforcement role. And traditionally, when Sir Robert Peel or other founding fathers of modern law enforcement, the really only thing they were working on is law enforcing. And now, when someone calls 911, they expect us to mitigate civil disputes, help in mental health crises, kind of really solve society's worst problems. And I feel like, and research would suggest that you really got to have a good understanding of the root cause of all these issues, and that is explored in higher education.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love what you just said there, that law enforcement duties have expanded exponentially since 1829 and Sir Robert Peel and his 9 Peelian principles. But should we be an expert in all those fields? Shouldn't we be addressing them in police academies? My earliest police academy was 19 weeks. And then when I transferred to the San Francisco Police Department, it was 30 weeks. And I know now some academies are going 32, 33, up to 36 is the most I've heard. And can't we give enough education about these mental health, new weapons tactics, dealing with homeless issues, dealing with people with drug addictions, or do we need that 4-year degree to give us a better idea of more in those subjects?
Yeah, I guess just to answer the question, no, I don't think that the traditional police academy is preparing officers for the complexities of the job. I through I'm in Minnesota, so our minimum college requirement is a 2-year degree. And that's getting better. I think there is a lot more preparation with that. However, a bachelor's degree, or sometimes it takes 5 years for folks to complete that, but ultimately 4 years, I really think sets someone up to be a better police officer, to solve the root causes of the problems, to understand social and cultural differences, to really kind of get a better understanding of emotional intelligence, kind of, the word on the street right now is how do we connect with our people and help them through their worst time. And I don't think that 19 weeks or 6 months or whatever is enough to prepare someone for that, especially at the age that traditionally brings that in, which, right after high school, if you go to the police academy, you're only 20 or 21 by the time you get out. And I just don't think that with the lack of life experience and education, it sets one up to be a effective police officer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I came into my agency at 21 years old, and I think, 21 back then is different than our 21-year-olds today, and I'm sure that's a debate for others to have. But do degrees make for better cops? I guess you're saying they do.
Yeah, I I think they do. I recently wrote a literature review on this, and I was just trying to get an understanding of what's out there, what's already been addressed. And ultimately, there were several studies, like I said, in the early 2000s primarily, but um, several studies articulating, showing evidence of multiple jurisdictions, hundreds of police officers and some, that yes, their education is directly correlated to their performance as a police officer. Some things that are highlighted in the studies are uh, better decision making, better critical thinking, and kind of analysis, having an analytical brain for these problems, and communication skills, reading and writing. When you go through a bachelor's degree program, that's exactly what you're doing. And regardless of if it's criminal justice or not, you learn how to articulate your thoughts, how to absorb other people's thoughts and kind of form them to what your beliefs are, and put all of that in writing or in a speech, and all of that prepares someone to become a better police officer. A few other things that the studies articulate are less likelihood to use force. I think this is really interesting dynamic, especially from the lens of liability and however your department or organization is insured, they're going to want to know this because um, the more you're able to articulate yourself, explain things to people in the way they understand, the less force you'll have to use. In policing, we only use force when someone is not doing something that we want them to. We give them the verbal commands, stop, stop. That's at some point that doesn't work sometimes, and ultimately it's a necessary evil because there are some times that it's needed. But the better avenue is, okay, let's talk to these people. Let's think about what position they're in. Let's think about their perspective. Let's think about why we're in this exact moment we are right now. And when you're able to slow things down and be more methodical, I think that's a better um, end result for everyone involved.
Yeah, so I mean, what does the literature say as far as socialization goes? I mean, does the college environment being forced some students to live on campus or in student housing, working closely with other students and faculty, close quarters, differing opinions, maybe collaborating in small groups or in coursework. Is that part of the equation in getting them to be able to deal with others when maybe in their environment up till then, they're just in the family with maybe some outside friends?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jim. I think you hit it on the spot. That is precisely why I think the first few years of an undergraduate degree, if you're living on a campus, is so beneficial. Um, you get exposed to so many different perspectives. You get exposed to ideas that challenge your original assumptions, even especially if you're in a college far away from home. You're around people that think totally different than you. And in that environment, you're able to, you know, better articulate yourself, argue in a um, socially acceptable way, uh, your differing views. And that's basically what law enforcement is you're arriving on a call, there's some type of conflict, and you have to determine, first of all, of course, if a crime was committed, but then why are these two people or more people engaging in this conflict? Because ultimately we wouldn't be called if this was peaceful. So clearly there's some type of lack of communication. And in that college setting, you learn all of those things. You're in close quarters, you're studying, you're navigating group projects, you're engaging with professors who are experts in the field you're learning, and they really teach you kind of what's expected of you as a citizen that wants to make a change in their community. Additionally, I think that undergraduate degree, college experience helps you build emotional intelligence, kind of empathize with people better, and manage, your interpersonal conflicts with roommates or professors themselves or what have you. Being away from home, growing up in those 4 years, sometimes five, is really valuable to the law enforcement mentality, I think.
Yeah, I have both undergrads and upper division students in my classes, and I do see the transformation from incoming freshmen, sophomores to juniors and seniors, where there's, the maturity level is showing. They're more articulate in talking about their perspectives. So I see the growth there. I think you're right on there. I want to ask you though, before a lot of our veterans switch off this podcast, I want to ask you a little bit more about life experience and how that figures in to making for better cops. But first, I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. ESOF is a secure, cloud-based pre-employment background investigation software system designed specifically for public safety agencies. Used by hundreds of agencies nationwide, ESOF has been credited with cutting the time it takes to process a pre-employment background investigation by up to 50%, saving agencies significant time, money, and resources without sacrificing investigation quality. For more information, go to esoph.com. That's ESOPH.com. And we're back, and I'm speaking with Hunter Panning, a police officer and scholar from Chaska, Minnesota, talking about his studies of higher education for police officers. Now, Hunter, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the School of Hard Knocks. And I see this on social media when, these discussions are being held about higher education and the benefit to new police officers and veteran police officers. But isn't there something to be said about learned life experience on the street?
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing veteran officers, perhaps I should have led with this. There is nothing that can substitute for learning through the real world experiences. The School of Hard Knocks is a very valuable classroom for future police officers. However, this isn't a mutually exclusive thing. Often when I find myself in arguments like this with people that have been officers for 20, 30 years, they're very good cops, but they learned on the streets back, 15, 20 years ago, things weren't expected of them that are expected of us now. And whether that's right or wrong, it's the way it is. And I think it's important to value veteran officers and their experience handling calls. However, like I said, when I find myself in arguments or engaging in conversation about this topic, it's not a mutually exclusive thing. I think education, along with life experience, along with years of experience, provide a better officer. When you start getting into that 3, 4, 5, 6 year mark, where maybe you start having interest in becoming promoted, I think the book work is very important. But then, additionally, so are all of the things you've experienced in your years of service already. The studies that I've read show that, life experience teach resilience, the street smarts, if you will, and can help with critical thinking skills. But the book work helps you articulate yourself with all of that. It correlates in your brain the reason why this is happening, the social structures that contribute to this problem, the psychological behaviors that are contributing to this problem. Things that maybe weren't understood that well 20 years ago from a cop's perspective, it's making us more empathetic and compassionate about the people we're dealing with. So
Mhm.
ultimately, a blend, a very diverse blend of life experience and education allows officers to develop all the necessary skills. Having one or the other, I think you're losing out on some valuable life lessons, but having both is where the research says is the best.
Yeah, I mean, in the process of trying to recruit people into policing, I know that the process tends to favor people with limited life experience because they haven't been in fights, they haven't been pulled over, cited, they haven't had financial troubles or anything yet. They're generally 20, 21-year olds, maybe definitely living the majority of their life at home with their family. And I've seen a pattern of recruits who live at home, go to school, come home, meet friends, play video games, go to movies, go to sleep, repeat, repeat. Uh, didn't have the fight, punched in the face, punched somebody else in the face, pulled over for driving like a maniac. And I think those experiences would lead better into law enforcement where you don't shut down the first time somebody takes a swing at you. Uh, I don't know that we can prepare people for those kinds of encounters. And I think we miss out on people who've maybe had a brush with the law in their past. And I think some of those who made it through the process have been terrific cops. Should we be making our academies another 3 months longer to give them some of those experiences? Should we bring boxing back to the police academy? We do in San Francisco, we did a week's worth of community engagement and cultural awareness where we'd go out in the community, we'd take, recruit classes out into communities, different segments of the communities. But one day in a different community, in a different culture isn't enough. What's your opinion on that? Should we open up our background a little bit more to accept people who have had some real life experience, or should we build it into the academy?
Yeah, that's another interesting dynamic. I think I would agree. I think we do lose a lot of good people simply if we are looking at the paper and the numbers they score in the background process. Um, I guess what I would encourage is a more um, decentralized background process. Make sure people are getting the true experience through that few months of, having people dig up your background. I think um, ranking everyone with the same rubric is not fair. It's like essentially the quote that says, if you judge an elephant by its ability to swim next to a fish, well, obviously that's not going to work. So I think if we decentralize it and really look at the person, really identify these specific instances that could be concerning, but then look at them through the lens of that person and not through the lens of this standard rubric that everyone's evaluated on.
Mhm.
Because I think you're right, being pulled over, perhaps getting into a fight as a teenager, um, getting, what have you. I think it provides some good insight and it really helps you remember the feeling you had when you're out on the street for the first year and encountering these young people who are, deathly afraid of you or are completely shut down because you're questioning them about a simple theft. Um, I think that adds to the empathy and compassion part of law enforcement when you've experienced it too. Now, obviously, we can't be having bad people in the job, but I think we do lose a lot of good people if we assess everyone by the same criteria.
Yeah, I know. I love the comment about empathy and compassion. I want to share a quick story. My younger son, who's a sergeant with the police department, when he was a teenager, I think he was maybe a junior or senior in high school, he got a job being a decoy for undercover alcohol sales. And he only did it a couple of times, and I asked him why he quit, and he said, "I felt really bad." Here I'd go in, grab a six-pack out of the fridge, get up to the counter, throw the money on the counter. Guy looks at me, smiles, and sells it to me. I walk out knowing that he's gonna get cited for that, and here he is kind of trying to do me a favor, if you will. And so he understood, both sides of enforcement there, right? That, it was a little bit more nuanced than black and white, that this guy's an offender, we need to cite him, maybe shut down his business. And I think maybe a, a better introduction into law enforcement for younger people at the front end before they're sworn officers, or we extend the academy. And I don't think, I mean, I know that a lot of young people don't like the idea of maybe going from college to sitting into a chair for another 6 months at a police academy. But if we did it right, I think we could build in those learning experiences for young people who haven't been exposed up to that time.
Yeah, in Minnesota, we're kind of unique compared to other parts of the country. So we are basically on our own through the academy. We're not sponsored by an agency when we get sent to an academy. So I think that makes it a little bit more of a rigorous job market because everyone has experienced, um, well, everyone was unsponsored through up to hiring. So now they have to kind of promote themselves and articulate to the hiring board why they want to be the next officer for that city. So I often wonder if that's a better process than southern states like California or Florida, Georgia. They all kind of have the same process, or if the way that people in California do it is better. I don't know the answer to that. However, I think when you keep in mind that you are not hired until you're through the academy, I
Hmm.
think your decision-making processes um, are a little bit more fine-tuned because you're having to get hired after you've done all this
Hmm.
preparation.
Got it. Yeah. So what about the degree? So we talk in generalities here, right? That we want people with college degrees. What if I have a degree in the fine arts or liberal arts or space exploration? Do those have value for our next police officers?
Yes. From the research I've read and from a personal opinion, I think the type of degree doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't necessarily need to be in criminal justice. I think fine arts, while it prepares you for all the things that I'm advocating for, like writing, reading, articulating yourself, looking at things through multiple perspectives, um, obviously a criminal justice degree will teach you things that would benefit you more. However, any type of degree teaches critical thinking, problem solving, and communication. Um, even the fine arts, like you suggest, they're going to teach, empathetic responses or the ability to view things from different lenses, um, an analytical mindset where you're looking, let's say you do have an undergraduate in art. A lot of that is comparing things to one another, and that really the actual act of doing art things doesn't prepare you, but it prepares your brain to engage in those types of analytical situations. It prepares the neural pathways to do this over and over again and teach your brain how to reason with itself and articulate what you're thinking, essentially. And all of those things are beneficial to this job. And I think some of the best cops I've ever met are non-traditional applicants where they have a degree in finance or, business administration, because it really just gives you a different perspective on the world.
Yeah, so we talk about fairness and equity, and I'm thinking about the economic factors in someone who can't sponsor themselves through a police academy and certainly can't afford for the 4-year degree. What do we do about that? I mean, we're in this recruitment crisis. I just wrote a book with Dr. Janae Gasparini, a police officer and professor at the State University of New York. She runs an academy there, and I mean, we're missing out on people who are not going to school. They're going immediately into a job just to support themselves. What are we doing for them?
Yeah, well, we have to realize that economic factors are a barrier to this. I think we lose a lot of good people with quality life experience and a quality education um, because they can't continue to pay for what's next. Um, it's policing has traditionally been a career path for individuals seeking a stable, well-paying job, primarily, and um, don't have college degrees. That's never been a real thing. It's always been looked at as a blue collar profession. Um, that being said, as we progress and our world becomes more complicated, that's going to change. But yeah, to address the economic barrier, you really have to become creative with pathways into policing. That's the phrase we use here in Minnesota, at least. You have to balance the education accessibility with the cost, and you want to be able to cast a net and catch a whole bunch of people in that net that have um, everything you're looking for. But to do that, you have to kind of give them a little too. Maybe you hire them um, with a 2-year degree, and then part of your process as a new officer is going to finish school to get a bachelor's degree, whether that's paying for 50% of the tuition or 75 or whatever. Every organization is different, but we that's a good point that we can't lose is the economic barrier and finding creative ways to provide those that don't necessarily have a degree with getting it, and promoting a culture of continuing education, valuing education, promoting people that also value education and have done the hard work of earning a degree, and kind of setting that stage for a learning environment.
Yeah, and I know a lot of agencies are now sponsoring young police officers with their education by either paying off their degrees. There's educational stipends. You earn your pay increases a lot quicker than someone without them. What about the idea of just hiring good people first and then getting them educated along the way? I think in our academy, students earn 20 to 30 college units for their time in the police academy, easily transferable to, say, an AA, an associate's degree. We have community college as well that's either low cost or in some areas free. Shouldn't we like take it in steps rather than say, come with your cap and gown and we'll give you a gun and a baton?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have a hard time answering that because I'm advocating for cops that are more empathetic, resilient, able to read and write, and have all these theories in their mind to work with, but also realizing that if we just hire good people, we can teach them. So yes, that is a very good approach to this problem. Let's hire good people with strong character, integrity, the foundational qualities of a good police officer, and then we'll help them financially through college. But I worry about those, 3 or 4 years in between that. What's happening between when someone's 20 and working the night shift, between when they're, 26, completed their degree, and now on the day shift. I worry about the what we're losing in those responses. However, um, I think you'll always be safe if you hire good people with good character and then provide financial assistance for education. The idea of hiring a good candidate first is always um, the priority. You just have to supplement that with, well, what kind of education do they have to, maybe bring a list from 20 down to 10. Um, so yeah, I kind of give you a non-answer there, but yes, you have to strike a balance, but then you have to be cautious about what you're losing in those years of transition between only having completed the academy to earning a college degree. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people in their careers start off, new officers, introverted, kind of unusual in the profession to have introverts, but see them develop because I mean, it's sink or swim at some points in law enforcement. So, you have a 21-year-old, they go into a house, there's a family dispute, and a 22-year-old brand new soaking wet police officer is telling a 40-year-old to sit down and be quiet in their own house while they sort out this argument. And I understand what you're saying about the life experience at that point, but I think a lot of these things could be transitioned into training at the academy. We've got these legislative mandates about law, college degrees, and so I think something's got to give. There's got to be something in the middle where either they pay to extend the police academy and maybe award a degree at the end of that, coupled with maybe some independent study, or I think we really hurt ourselves in the recruitment battle if all we're going to do is say you don't fill out an application unless you have a 4-year degree. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing argument, and we'll see what happens once these mandates take effect and what the impact it's going to have on recruiting.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. This is also new still that I think we'll just have to see what different agencies implement and then what their results are. There are several metro agencies in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area that, yes, you have to have a bachelor's degree to even apply. And of course that discriminates, if you will, against people that have really good life experience, but there's good evidence to suggest that, yeah, it makes you a better cop. So we're just going to have to see, it's going to take years to figure out if this is beneficial or not, and then adjust accordingly.
Yep. Another social experiment, and sometimes I don't think that legislators think far enough in advance to factor in the unintended consequences. And I think there are some with this new requirement.
Most certainly.
Well, Hunter, great having you on the show. Good luck to you on your continued research. What do you have coming out? You have an article coming out on Police One. What's going on?
Yeah, I wrote a few for Police One. If you go to their website and just type in my name, you can find it. But I'm about almost through my first year of doctoral work, so I'll be writing a lot more, researching a lot more. I do plan on continuing to contribute to Police One, but then ultimately I have to decide what I want to do my dissertation work on, and I'm not quite sure yet, but I think it's going to be around this recruitment, education, use of force issue. So a lot more coming down the pipe, and I'm really excited to continue to contribute to our profession, all in the name of making us better cops. So
Great. Well, thanks for your continued service as a school resource officer in Minnesota. And again, good luck to you in your research and your doctoral pursuit. And I want to ask the listeners to let me know what you think and comment on your opinion about education and law enforcement. Should we have the requirement for a 4-year degree before applying for a police officer, or should we come up with some other solution with an extended academy or some other way to get education for law enforcement officers on the job? Let me know what you think. Drop me a line at policingmatters@policeone.com. And if you have ideas about future shows or people that you are interested in, let me know and I'll track them down. All right, take good care, stay safe, and thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I hope to talk to you again real soon. Take good care.